Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Cameron. On behalf of the RDIC, I would like to welcome and thank Mrs. Katarina Boychuck for joining us here today. Katarina is teaching on a colony school, and she's going to share her journey with us through school and what teaching is like in this situation. So before we begin though, before Kat takes it away, I'd just like to tell the kids out there that we have a new website. It's very user friendly, and you can comment at any time and be eligible to win a $50 gift certificate just by commenting on any of the spotlights that you view. So please take the time. It's a very good learning experience. On that, Katarina, I'll let you take it away, and thank you again so much.
Great, thanks for having me, Jeff. Today I'll be talking to you guys about teaching on the colonies. And just starting off with a little introduction about myself. So my name is Katarina Boychuck. I'm from Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, and I teach high school on the colony. So the subjects that I teach are grade 9 to 12 art, grade 9 to 12 phys ed, and then grade 9 math. Just a little background on my education. So I graduated from Valley City State University. That's in North Dakota, so in the States. And I went down there on a softball scholarship. So just touching on the scholarship, it did help pay for my education. So if any of you guys are athletes and thinking about going to the States, I do encourage you guys to think about applying for scholarships because it does help out a little bit. The education program in the States is 5 years. So I was down there for 4.5 years. And then for half a year, I got to come back and do my student teaching here in Manitoba. And I did my practicum in grade 3. So it's kind of funny now that I teach high school. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education, as well as fine arts. And then too, I also wanted to touch on if you guys are considering education in the States, just kind of touch base with the certification unit in your province. It's different for every province in Canada. So some provinces require you to have a different amount of credits. I know Manitoba here, I had to take extra courses after going to the States. So I would just double check with your certification units if you're considering education. Working on the colony, so it is multi-grade. I just put up here, so there's 3 different categories. Elementary would be kindergarten to grade 4. Middle years is 5 to 8. And then high school is 9 to 12. So just kind of going on the elementary and the middle years, you do have to teach a few different curriculums. So I talked to a few of my coworkers, and they mentioned that they didn't teach all, let's say, four grades that they had. So if they're K to 4, they would focus on kindergarten, grade 2 and grade 4 one year, and then they would focus on grade 1 and 3 the next year. So they're not having to teach all of those curriculums because that would be a little bit overwhelming. So they just kind of swap off. With me being in high school, so I do teach art grades 9 to 12. This year I'm focusing on grade 10 art. So I do switch my art programs every year. With the math, I do trans math first semester. And then second semester, I go into grade 9 math. So those are 2 different curriculums as well. And then the 9 to 12 phys ed is all different curriculums. So it is quite a bit at the start. It took a lot of planning, but once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. Just touching on my setup here. So this is what my screen looks like when I come into the studio every day. It's split up. So on one side of my screen, I'll have my lessons displayed. And I just put an example up here. If I was gonna put up an art project, it'd be shown on the one side of the screen. And then on the other side, I can see all of my students in their little studios. So as a multi-grade teacher, I actually only sit with 2 to 3 kids a day in person. So they'll be sitting with me in the studio, and then I teach to the rest of the kids in my class over screen. So on the right side of the TV there, you'll see all these little boxes, and each of my other students, they're in those boxes. So if they have any questions or if they need to contact me or anything, they just turn on their mic and a little picture will pop up on the screen there, and I can see who's in the studios. So it's kind of neat that way. It's a different style of teaching. It's very quiet compared to being in the classroom, since I'm only actually sitting with 2 or 3 kids a day. But I enjoy it. It's a learning curve for me. So I just wanted to kind of talk about some of the perks and challenges that I have with my job. As I mentioned, I do have small class sizes. So if I'm sitting with 2 or 3 kids, the rest of them, so I'd have like maybe 25 other kids that I'm teaching to. So it's a lot of one-on-one time with the kids. I'm not having to focus on teaching to 25 all in the same classroom. I can sit with those 2 or 3 kids and do a lot of instructional work with them. So that's a nice perk about the job. There's also more time for preparation and marking. So with my classes, I teach first class of the day. In other semesters, I've taught right before lunch, and then I teach at the end of the day. So it's only 3 blocks that I'm actually teaching. And then the rest of that time that I have for my spares, I'm sitting and I'm basically working one-on-one with those kids. So it's nice. I have a lot of time for preparation, a lot of time for marking, and getting my work done at school rather than at home. Another nice piece about the job is I'm at a new place every day. So I'm seeing different faces, getting to travel around. So I'm not going to the same school, same classroom every day. I get to show up and go to 20 different schools in a month. So that's kind of neat. It is a lot of driving, which can sometimes be a downfall, especially in the winter. We haven't had the greatest winter here in Manitoba. So the roads can be a little bit icy, but when the weather's good, it's nice to drive all over the province to go see those kids. Another perk here, so this is just, I don't know if it's this way for you guys in Saskatchewan too, with some rural schools, but we do have school closures when it storms. So if it's a blizzard day and buses aren't running, then we are able to work from home. So we're not having to drive into the city schools and report to work. They take safety into consideration and they allow us to do our job from home. So that's kind of nice. A couple of the challenges. So our ITV system, it relies on the internet and technology. So some days when the internet is down at a colony, it makes it difficult for the kids to call in to class. So sometimes they're missing class because the internet's not working properly. And then also for me to send out assignments to them, I have to send it through an email to a scanner. So when the technology is not working, it makes my job a little bit chaotic. Another thing that is inconvenient sometimes is the attendance. So once our kids turn 15, they take on responsibilities on the colony. So they're expected to work. So with that, they get pulled out of our classes a lot to go help out on the colony. And then sometimes they're coming in before class and they've already worked 2 hours, and then they're expected to go out at 4 after school's done and go to the shop or go to the kitchen and work as well. So it is a lot of stress on the kids. Some days they're pretty tired because they've come from work, they have to attend school, and then they also have to go to work again. So that's a little bit challenging. Another thing here, so with the supervision, we have to hold our students accountable that they're doing their work. I can only see a small little box on the screen. So If it looks like they're taking notes, I'm just expecting that they are. Sometimes they might not be doing what they're supposed to, but it makes it a little bit challenging for us to know if they're actually sitting there and doing the work that they're supposed to be. And then the last one there, this is one that I always find difficult, is dealing with behavior over screen. So if there is a student who's being challenging, or if they're misbehaving, it's not like you can take that student out and have one-on-one conversation with them. You have to figure out a way on how to handle that issue over screen. And for me, I find that difficult just because I would rather speak to that kid one-on-one, but sometimes you just have to call them out and tell them to do what they're supposed to do. So, all right, so that's kind of just an overview of what my job looks like. If you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Yeah,
Well, firstly, Kat, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And no, like, I didn't know, like, just a few things. I didn't know that you actually went to 20 different schools. I thought you were in one school. And
no, yeah, so with the high school, they only have like at most, I would say 5 is like my biggest class size of all high school kids, and that's from 9 to 12. So we can't be strictly at one school. We have to do a bunch of traveling.
what kind of area do you travel, Katarina? What's your, from your home base, what would be your furthest colony that you'd be driving to?
My furthest is actually, I would say Steinbach is the furthest one that I have to go. It's about an hour and 40 minutes from our home, but we only have to go to those further colonies like once a month. So I go all the way to Steinbach. I go west, so I'm out in the Spruce Woods area, which is also like an hour and a half drive from my home. But a lot of them are close. Like there's some that are within 10, 20 minutes from my house. The majority of them are close by.
So you just plan your schedule that you're at a school. I mean, with 20 schools, there's about 20 work days in a month. You try to plan it so that
Yeah.
you school at least once a month.
Yeah, I get to, like, I go to our like Porter School Division. I go to those schools a lot more than I go out of division. So the further schools I don't go very often. It's like once a month. But in the Porter School Division, I'll see those kids like maybe 2-3 times a month. So
So
I have a big calendar that I have a different school at every day. So
yeah. So the whole COVID
driving.
COVID didn't really shut you down, basically, because you're teaching virtual anyway, right?
Right. So actually we were teaching from the high school in Portage just because we weren't allowed to travel to like any of the colonies because they were kind of private. So they didn't even want us there. So we taught from PCI over our system. We had studios set up there.
One of the things in our province is, as a teacher with the provincial school systems, you can accumulate your years of service, right? And when you get to that max 30 years, you can retire. How does that work with a colony teacher for students that may be considering that option?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I'm not really understanding what the question is. Sorry.
Well, in our province, you can accumulate the number of years that you teach so that when you hit, say, get to 30 years, you can retire with a pension. And is that the case? Is that the same in Manitoba or with teaching in colony schools?
Yeah, it's the exact same. So we're actually we're still considered like Portage School Division. So it's our school division is no different than the town teachers or anything like that.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that.
So Katarina, you're still on a similar pay scale then. You'd be on the same pay scale as a provincial Manitoba teacher or Saskatchewan teacher, if the kids out there are wondering.
Yeah. So that's actually a good question, because I remember when I first took the job here, I thought it was a completely different system. but we're still paid the same as a high school teacher would be in Portage, or a elementary teacher, just depending on your class.
Wow. I can't imagine
Yeah.
having 2 students in a classroom. Yesterday I was subbing and there was 33 kids in grades 4, 5, 6. And we were making paper airplanes in a flight unit. So, I mean, 33 making paper airplanes to 2 students, it would be quite a difference, you know?
No, it's very, like, very nice, because when I did my practicum, I had a huge class. I think there was like 35 kids. So when I took on the job at the colony, I kind of go like, holy, this is like way less stressful, and I really enjoyed it, and it's close to home too. So works out good for me.
So when you're dealing with behavioral issues, I kind of really feel for you there. I think it's so important in any aspect of life to have that human element, be able to talk to someone. So do you find there are quite a few behavioral issues, or it doesn't happen much?
No, it's like very rare. And if it is an issue, it's like the kids moving their camera and like zooming in on somebody. Like that would be like an issue that I have to deal with. It's not like, I don't know, them fighting each other, things like that. So it's very minimal compared to the public schools.
Oh, wow.
Are students,
Yeah.
a question for you, are the students that are logging in virtually, is there somebody supervising that room where the students are all in case there are technical difficulties or anything like that?
There's only a site teacher. So like, let's say at one school, they would have like a K-4 teacher, and then they would have their middle school teacher. So there's 2 site teachers. Sometimes there's an EA who will pop in on the high school kids. But other than that, they're like expected to be there and work. So that's a difficult part for me. Like I can see them on screen and they have their papers out in front of them and look like they're writing stuff down, but they could be working on something for another class, or they could just be like doing whatever they want pretty much, because it's hard to see in those little boxes.
What are the job opportunities like, Katarina, with if kids out here are wondering if they are graduating and wanted a quieter setting, are there some job opportunities in this field? In the school field, would you say, or?
Yes, like for us, I would say a lot of new teachers will start out on the colonies in our school division, because there are so many openings there.
Oh.
And then they might work there for a few years. Some of them stay until they retire. But some start out there because it is a quieter setting. And then if they want to move to town schools, they'll ask for a transfer to town. But it's very like open in our school division anyways.
And I noticed you said you're teaching some art. Did you happen to draw that picture that we have on our screen?
That was one of my students who drew that.
Oh, and that's a picture of you, I take it, right?
Yep.
That is amazing.
A picture of me? Wait, did you say a picture of me? No, that's not me.
Okay, well, I thought it was kind of, you know, like.
Okay, no, that was a self-portrait of them that they had drawn.
Would you not say, Renette, that looks a little bit like Katarina?
Well, I can definitely see the head, the kerchief that's hanging off the back. So I assumed it probably wasn't her, but
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Anyhow, no, well, I don't know if Renette, if you have any other questions?
No, I want to just take this opportunity to Katarina to thank you for spending some time with us and giving us just a different vision of education. And this was very, very good, very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Katarina,